This podcast contains an English accent that most of our Irish listeners will find offensive. Also, there may be some colourful language that you're going to find less offensive. Now, over to Ryan and Leon. Enjoy the podcast.
What's the crack, you bastards?
Oh, lads, welcome to the show. I'm speechless, to be honest with you, already on the show, because you remember from last week, Leon said he was going to source out one of James Joyce's love letters
from the archives, the annals of history.
I just can't believe what you've sent me, to be quite honest.
I can't believe you've never read this.
So this is James Joyce writing letters to his wife. Nora Barnacle. You had an arse full of farts that night, darling, and I fucked them out of you, quick like merry cracks and a lot of tiny little naughty farties, ending in a long gush from your hole. It is wonderful to fuck a farting woman when every fuck drives one out of her. I think I would know Nora's fart anywhere. I think I could pick hers out in a room full of farting women. It is a rather girlish noise, not like the wet windy fart which I imagine fat wives have. It is sudden and dry and dirty like what a bold schoolgirl would let off in fun in a school dormitory at night. I hope Nora will let off no end of her farts in my face, so that I may know their smells also. And there's lots of these, is there?
There's a couple of them, yeah. There's a couple of them. There was, I think it's out of print at the moment, but you can find it more on the interweb, and it's they get a lot worse.
What a fella.
A lot worse. I suppose he was writing them to his wife thinking, look, nobody's ever going to read these. Especially not on a poetry podcast.
100 years later, however long it is since he wrote about those. And kind of tying in nicely with James Joyce, Leon, you mentioned on the first show a funny limerick that Brendan Behan had written, explaining the difference between like prose and poetry. And I think we're going to get into Brendan today.
Behan wrote a poem about another very famous Irish writer. It's about the final days of Oscar Wilde. It was originally written in Irish, and thankfully for us muggles, it was translated into English by the wonderful Ulick O'Connor. So
he'd never written this in English.
No, he'd written it in Oscalia. So
wow.
he'd written, So as I said, thankfully there's a translation that I'm gonna read the English translation as opposed to the Irish. So as I said, it's about the final days of Oscar Wilde's life, and obviously Oscar Wilde is kind of known as there's a great line, the young Prince of Sin. So it's like he's always considered this kind of smiling, young, carefree man, kind of on the outskirts of society and stuff like that. But this is kind of when his final days. He's bedridden. He's written by Brendan Behan. So there's kind of speculations that Brendan Behan was also had homosexual, I was going to say homosexual tendencies, but they reckon he was kind of hidden homosexuality, so kind of repressed. So this is his. He kind of felt like this was like a connection with Oscar Wilde, and this is a great. It's a poem simply just titled Oscar.
Oscar.
That body once lively, dumb in the darkness, quiet but for candles blazing beside him. His elegant form and firm gaze exhausted. Exiled now from the cafes, the sanctity's desert, the young Prince of Sin, broken and withered. Lust left behind him, gem without lustre, no whiskey for the stiffener but cold, holy water. The young king of beauty, Narcissus broken, but the pure star of Mary as a gleam on the ocean. Sweet is the way of the sinner, sad death without God's praise. My life on you, Oscar boy, yourself had it both ways.
Brendan Behan, I guess immortalising Oscar Wilde in a portrait of his youthful, brilliant self, so that I guess people are just reminded of what a wonderful person he was and a strong person at his dying days, maybe.
But it's so there's definitely a sadness to it where like the young Prince of Sin, who's exiled now from the cafes, the sanctities desert. It's like he's kind of lived this life surrounded by people, living this life, the young people in the cafes, and now he's by himself. But I actually originally how I came across that poem was there's a wonderful musician called Jack O'Rourke, and he put the poem to music. So there's a wonderful rendition on social media, but I think it's on YouTube as well, of Jack O'Rourke in a cathedral playing a piano.
Oh,
the acoustics are unreal, but he's basically singing the poem itself.
Yeah.
So that's how I originally. So I came across a poem about Oscar Wilde written by Brendan Behan, translated by Ewan O'Connor, which is actually sung by Jack O'Rourke. So there's like a lot of steps to get to that poem. But yeah, I'm glad I found it because it's a fantastic piece. So
hopefully we can find that video somewhere. Jack O'Rourke doing that. Maybe it's on YouTube. We can share it out.
Yeah, Jack O'Rourke's on Instagram, so you'll definitely be able to find him. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, mate. Love that. Let's bring forward to the present day and someone who has captured the kind of feelings of a lot of people that are going through the same similar issues that this woman does a great job at writing about, the wonderful Jan Brierton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jan Brierton.
I've heard good things about El Jan.
Jan is brilliant. She just released her second collection called Everyone is a Poem, which I think is the same title as her podcast. But I think a beautiful thing about Jan's work is the friend that I think we all need. That especially when you are feeling like you're doing a lot of nodding along and smiling, and like maybe your top body is like upright and like hello, how are you, but your feet are like skinning away and like really trying to keep up with the momentum of life. She's the friend to go like, don't worry, like no one's got it sorted out. We're all fucking trying to figure this out. Don't worry, those women at the school gate are twats, so don't listen to them. Do you know what I mean? She's the friend that I think we all need. That
image of the legs reminds me of a duck. You can be calm on the top of, and then you can be pedaling furiously underneath.
Yeah, and I think that's what she captures. Like her moment in, I guess, to kind of go back to how she became someone that people knew about. She wrote a lockdown poem called "What Day Is It? Who Gives a Fuck?" which is the same. That's the title of her first collection. Brilliant. And it's basically it was a list of, I've had a fucking enough of this. Going for walks in the park, teaching kids, but things like that. Jan puts this into poetry.
Yeah.
It's things like that frustration of like, fuck the Zoom. I don't want to do that. I don't want to show up today. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of us are showing up to the best of our ability, and Jan does a good job at just taking that energy of like, oh, bloody hell, and going, you know what? That's a poem.
Yeah.
A poem that really stuck out with me from the first collection is I guess it's a love letter to people that are in long-term relationships and have had to go through the ups and downs of that relationship. That's pretty much what this poem is. So the poem I'll read to you, Leon, is called "You Got Back Your Funny."
You got back your funny.
Yeah.
Take it away.
There's a lightness about you. Before now it was missing. There's mischief and charm and even some kissing. You laugh at my jokes. You reach out for my hand. How was your day? It was great, sure. I'm grand. You lost some of your funny. It was hard to stand by and see your despair go to bed to just cry. I loved you right through it. How could I not? You do it for me. You're all I've got. Today the sparkle is back. Can't buy that with money. I can see it. It's there. You got back your funny.
That was Jan Brierton, You Got Back Your Funny. And I think I've been in a relationship nearly 7 years now myself, and that is very true. I don't think it's something that actively happens, and it's not like even you have things are going good, it's like sometimes you just go through the motions, and then it's like, I don't know, it's like you have an epiphany one day, you're like, what the fuck you know, you kind of get like an overwhelming sensation. I don't know if you get this as well, but it's like, I'm sure you do, but it's like, I really fucking love that person, and it's like, why haven't said that in a couple of days, or you know, whatever. And you just go over and you give them a hug, and they're like, what are you doing? What do you want off me?
Yeah.
What do you want? What are you playing here?
I think we just like, maybe this we take for granted maybe those relationships that are so close to us, but also you get lost in the day-to-day crap of life, don't you? Like, and you get used to moaning, you get used to like, you know, not being happy with like, I don't know, train times or like whatever it is that you're pissed off about. But then also, you know, people go through dark times as well. You know, just because you're in a relationship, it doesn't give you like a constant daily golden ticket to happiness. You know, life can be fucking tough, you know. And so having to stick through someone when they're going through bad times is there's not enough art about people that do that. Yeah. I think arts and like maybe music's the most like guilty of these particular ways of expressing yourself, but it's always about sex or first dates or
sex and money.
Want to ride the rings around you, you're amazing. There's not enough art.
It's like a James Joyce love letter.
Yeah. Although I can't remember last time I heard a fart in a song.
I'm sure we'll find one on Spotify quick enough.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? There's not enough art about how beautiful it is to go through that.
Yeah.
And kind of stay with somebody, because there's, you know, that's what life is, isn't it?
If you meet a relationship with a couple, right, and they say to you, you know, we never fight. They're either only just together, or they're fucking liars. That's,
yeah,
they're fucking liars.
They're fighting at home.
They're farting on each other. I'm not sure. They're into some weird shit. I don't know, but like, you know, a real relationship has ups and downs, and they still because you know the good outweighs the bad, and you still have to go through all them kind of things to. It's like we're talking about good days and bad days. You have to have good days and bad days to realise how you've had a good day, you know. So like it's the same thing, like, you know.
It is the same thing. So Jan, keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
The collection's out now. It just got delivered to me yesterday, actually, the new book. So, yeah, go and get it. I'm going to talk about someone who I have a collection with me as well. Swedish poet, based in, we call it Gothenburg, but they call it like Gothenburg, yeah. Her name is Josefin Friberg.
Ooh.
Now, I came across her work through Instagram. What interests me the most about her is she's a current, living, breathing, scarhead, two-tone, like throwback Fred Perry wearing mod. Basically, like
Sweden,
yeah, mad. Like, and I love two-tone music. I love ska music.
Yeah.
I'm from the West Midlands side. That's where the Specials, the Beat, the Selector, they all came from the same kind of area of Coventry, which isn't too far from where I'm from.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my first gig in Dublin. It was actually at Whelan's, where it was the Specials. Specials were there, not the whole band, but a few of the heads. And you kind of get an inner look into like a community of people that you didn't think existed anymore. Like, I went in, and obviously you're around Dublin City Centre and everyone's like, they come out of River Island. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's dressed normal. You go in there and braces, Doc Martens. Yeah, exactly. Chelsea maroon red boots. Women with oxblood boots. Yeah, women with like buzz cuts. And I was just there going, this is a bit of fucking me.
This is England vibes.
This is England. Josephine looks like she could come out of This Is England. She's been in Sweden, like, yeah, man.
This is Sweden.
This is Sweden. So she's absolutely class, and her work is fucking powerful. Great, you can tell she's into music. Great, like, turn of phrase. Great rhythm to her work. She rhymes consistently through her work. She's just an incredible writer, actually. I have a collection here. It's called Pharmacy, Pills and Poetry. The poem I'm going to read to you stuck out for me because it kind of like, sometimes in life we like, I think we all know that we deserve good stuff, but we're all prone to like making bad calls and like not treating ourselves like we are top dog. So this poem is called Never Learn. It's about like slipping into bad habits, basically.
Can't wait to hear it.
I never learn. I never seem to learn that I can't spend more than I earn. always digging new holes and turns like a worm, instead of upturn my own firm. The concern makes me nocturnal, and the troubled fingers in my hair giving me a perm. As I come to firm that I was the winning sperm, I need to return, stand up and affirm, and stop acting like a germ. That was Josefin Friberg with Never Learn. What do you think about that, Leon?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it, I have to say. It's nice to see that we're going to the shores of Sweden as opposed to just sticking around our usual isles.
But isn't that a good example of that language and that turn of phrase? Sweden.
I heard
bit cold out there.
I heard a rumor.
This seems to be quite common with you.
I've heard a rumor.
Yeah,
this could be complete, absolute horse manure, but I heard a rumor that if somebody dies in Sweden, that they have to wait for the funeral for, I think it's a month to 6 weeks, because there's an overabundance of affairs.
Oh.
So it has to give any children to come out of the woodwork to attend the funeral. As I said, could be a vicious rumour. But
that's fucking mad. If that is true.
If that's true,
we
should probably ask.
Might get Josefin to confirm that for us.
Josephine,
yeah, we'll ask her. She'd know.
So,
not just sharing that, man. Fucking hell, that's mental.
Anyway,
it's mad how the world treats funerals differently. Like I always say to my partner, like funerals in Ireland, I've never been to one, but I've been to two in England.
Yeah,
the England funerals are basically wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Like, go to the crematory wherever it is, throw them away, and then maybe have throw them, like, you know what I mean, and then have a sandwich maybe at the rugby club and go home. But the Irish funerals
go on for days.
Do
you want to hear a fact about the Irish funerals?
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you're familiar with the drink Puchin.
Yeah.
Puchin, for anyone who does not know, is like Irish moonshine. Puchin made from Puchin meaning small pot. Things a neutral grain spirit made in a small pot, usually in someone's shed, consisting of like oats or barley, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they distill it, they make their own alcohol, and then they drink it. But it's usually, because it's unregulated, very, very high content of alcohol.
Yeah, strong.
So you could cause you to, go deaf, go blind, or you could fall into a mini coma. So what they used to do was, and they still do to this day, if somebody would drink Puchin, they'd obviously fall unconscious. Back then they didn't know about pulses, and you might be a couple of days before you wake up. So what they used to do was, they used to have parties in your house where everyone would come around. They'd give you a bit of whiskey and they'd dance around with the person who was after falling asleep, and in the hopes of being so loud that the person would wake up. And that's why we'd have an Irish wake.
That's why it's
called a wake.
Wake.
To see if the person had drank so much whiskey. How fucking stereotypical is that? An Irish person drinks so much, falls asleep after drinking too much Puchin. There's a high chance they might have just drinking too much alcohol.
Wow.
Drank too much alcohol, should I say, not drinking. Drank too much alcohol. So there's a tradition in Ireland that the person who has, so they had the wake, the person doesn't wake up, they must be dead. So they can't let the body be left by itself, because it's believed in Ireland,
I've heard
pagan,
this,
that the body can't ascend if it's left alone. It'll remain in the underworld, or trapped between, wandering around, unable to ascend. So that's why you have to kind of guard the body until the body's put into the ground.
That's not for me now, I have to say. That's not for me, man.
Will we move on from?
Please do, if you don't mind. Yeah,
so,
very Irish of us, isn't it?
Very Irish. So this poem, this is a very random story how I met this person, but I met this person in Bangkok, in Thailand, about 7 years ago. His name is James Pollard. Delightful person. So we just kind of stayed in touch. We kept up on Facebook, and we'd like each other's things over the years. But I started writing the poetry, and then I started noticing, because I don't really check my Facebook anymore, but occasionally I do, and I see these kind of posts, and I noticed, James is writing poetry now. And he wrote this one, and I asked him, I said, what's the title? So it's a working title. The working title is called How Heavy is the Moon? Now, as I said, less than a year he's been writing, and I'll have to double check. I don't think he's even online with, he's on his Facebook and all that, but I'm not sure if he has an Instagram, but we'll have to check so we can give him a plug. But just listen to this poem now, for somebody who's so fresh. It's fucking brilliant, right? So, how heavy is the moon? If I can tip the balance of the revolution, I'll realise on the way that it's all pollution of the mind, an empty portrait on a canvas. Or a sculpture standing armless ain't hard to find. How heavy is the moon on your harness? There's not a lot of life left to tarnish, it's just begun. If that's your end game, then throw a lasso round the sun.
That was James Pollard with How Heavy Is the Moon?
Just so polished.
Yeah.
Like, you'd swear he was writing for years. And like the rhythm, it's like what's the word? When you expect what the next rhyme's going to be. He kind of plays with that a little bit. It's predictable. What I'm trying to say, his rhyming scheme isn't predictable.
No, it wasn't. No, I didn't know where that was going to go.
And then the imagery as well is very interstellar. It's lovely, isn't it? Like
yeah,
hell yeah. Throw a lasso around the sun.
Yeah,
unreal. What a line.
Keep writing your stuff. I mentioned earlier in the show there was a brand that closed, and I know we're not going to talk much about corporate stuff on this podcast. That's not what we're about. But Ted Baker went into liquidation this week, and clothing for me has always reflected a time in my life.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, all of my clothes came from the catalogue. I don't know, even in Ireland you had the catalogue, but because I know there's rules in Ireland about like lending and stuff. Like you wouldn't have been able to rent tellies in Ireland, I don't think.
Well,
like
Littlewoods is rented.
Littlewoods,
yeah.
Okay,
So we have Littlewoods. Yeah, we still do, I think.
My dad was always in work, but things were didn't really have much. So all my clothes from the catalogue.
Yeah.
Everything that came away was from the catalogue, and then I started to kind of take me lunch money that my mum and dad gave me. So in England, like there's cafeterias at school. I don't think in Ireland it's mostly packed lunches, isn't it? There's like you take your lunch in. There's not really a culture of buying food at school.
Well, now there's in certain schools. Like when I went to, we used to have to bring packed lunches because there was no cafeteria. But because the school I went to it's a desh school, so like a lower income kind of school. Desh schools now have cafeterias with hot food provided for the students for free. So like but you have to be from a disadvantaged area to get that kind of thing.
Okay.
But in other schools, it'd be mostly packed lunches.
Mostly packed lunches, yeah. So in England, most of the schools have like a shop. It's like a cafe that's a Hamburg 60p. Do you know what I mean? That kind of, but you're still buying as a kid. Like, I used to save my lunch money that I used to get £2 a day to spend for lunch. I used to save it. I was about 14, 15, and I used to get have about £10 a week. Then ready for the weekend, and I used to go uptown to try and see if I can buy a new t-shirt off the sale rack, or like try to kind of find something that wasn't like the pair of jeans that I'd been wearing for years from the catalogue. And it was my way of trying to grasp onto like a way of showing up in the world like everybody else was, because I think before that I maybe felt like a little bit like, I don't know, like not really on the same level as most of your school peers. You know what I mean? So having a way of getting clothes at a low price was so key to me. So you just got Top Man and buy a t-shirt for £5, and then all of a sudden you feel like a new kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then as soon as you got like new clothes, you buy the VO5 for your hair, and then slowly you kind of become having a bit more of a backbone, maybe.
It's independence though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's independence.
It's the first form of independence for yourself is dressing yourself, I suppose. And you're creating your own image that, your ma's not doing your hair for you. Exactly. And shopping for your clothes wise, it's your first kind of...
Yeah, and I feel like without that option of buying like clothing at that age, I'm not sure where I would have got my personality from, or would have got my identity from, or even the confidence. And I guess like you go through life and you don't have to go to the sale rack at Top Man anymore. And then I think Ted Baker for me now has represented like a way that I can afford to buy clothes that aren't designer, but like reflective of like someone who has a job and can afford a nice jumper.
I'll tell you one thing, right? And I don't think I've ever told you this, but the first time I ever met you, I think we were in the Jar for Smithfield Creatives, and you were wearing. I remember it was like a white turtleneck, I think, with a chain over it, and a black leather jacket, I think it was. And I remember looking at him going, he's so fucking sharply dressed. I was like, that man has a fucking style to him. I was like, and I was like, the first, see, it's right. I was like, the first time I ever met you, I was like, he's dressed well. Do you know? So it's kind of.
I think it's always been important to me because, like, I just know that, like, I think for a lot of people that don't come from much, it's their only way of grasping onto something to make them feel part of the world around them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of feel a little bit like in the middle of, we talk about sustainable clothing and all that stuff. I'm a little bit like, yeah, good, but also when I was younger, if I got my clothes from the second-hand shop, I'd feel even more scummy than I did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I wrote a poem about how Top Man was such an important part of my childhood, actually, and I guess it's a love letter to maybe a message to anyone who maybe comes from a disadvantaged background, who maybe is struggling to try and find their way of showing up in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's called Top Man Saved My Life.
Brilliant.
Catalogue Armani jeans. Couldn't keep them clean, but wore them every day at the park. After dark. Faded and dirty. Refusing the spliff. Dodging the can. I looked as shit as the next poor young man, but I was different. My feeler top disagreed. Watching beatings, petty thievings, stuck, but never truly in the room. 1 week I saved my lunch money and took it up to town. Walked into this fancy white place I thought I wouldn't be allowed. Every second felt a lifetime, but I stuck it out for a lifeline and saw a baby blue tee for a £5. These clothes ain't free. I took the £5 coins from my pocket, reaching around my blunted knife. I left my old top in the changing room and stepped outside. Top man, you saved my fucking life. Top man saved my life.
That's incredible. I've never heard that poem before.
No.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people maybe who are surrounded by, maybe people that they don't feel like a part of, but they don't know a way to get out of it. That was my way. But it's important for everyone to find their way.
Emma O'Brien talks about it in the North Side poem that he has, and it's like now I'm paraphrasing and he's probably going to kill me for this, but it's like there's people he became friends with because he saw what they did to people that weren't friends with them. He's like, I'd rather be an acquaintance than be a victim, essentially,
For sure, man. Yeah, oh God, I'm sure he would have been in bed sits going, well, I'd rather be here than being chased down by the people that are here.
It's, when you come from certain areas, you kind of, when you're surrounded by wolves, you don't pretend to be, you don't be a sheep.
To be a sheep.
You don't pretend to be a sheep, man.
Absolutely not.
You have to kind of fit in as best you can. And like you're talking about dressing, and it's like, it's an interesting how things have changed now. So back then, same as myself, like where the likes of cheaper fashion, pennies, Primark in England, obviously, but would be considered looked down upon when you're growing up. When we were our age with teenagers, it'd be like, it's fucking cheap, second-hand clothes. You'd be like, that's, you would, I grew up mostly wearing hand-me-downs, and so I looked like fucking Shaggy out of Scooby-Doo because I was wearing clothes that were too big for me and I was too skinny to wear them anyway. So like, but now, like after the recession in Ireland and the world recession, it's like pennies became fashionable. You have the penny son, the rise of the penny son, and I think I'm always going to be a penny son from now on. People will be like, "Where'd you get that?" Even like we were walking to the coffee shop earlier, and he's like, "Where'd you get them glasses?" And I was like, "Probably pennies." And I was like, €2.50. And like, you find great joy talking about how cheap you get your clothes for. Like, you go to a second-hand shop, and now it's considered vintage. Yeah, I've got a vintage. It's the same fucking clothes that your nanny was buying.
Different way of seeing it, isn't it?
Yeah, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but like it's just a change in perspective. But it's nicer because, obviously, pennies fast fashion is now going towards recyclable kind of materials, and
that is important.
So important.
And the world has changed. 20 years now, the world has definitely changed for the better in that regard. Definitely.
So, agony aunt.
Yeah, we got an agony aunt message in, and perfectly, it wasn't much, but there's a lot to uncover from it. And the message was too many emails. There's a lot to it. When I told you that was what we're going to be talking about, what did you think?
I know exactly what that person's going through.
Okay.
Because I always feel now that I'm just fucking bombarded with emails. I think as well, like when you work, like I do a lot of freelance work, and you feel like you're almost obliged to reply immediately because you're like, oh, fucking don't do it now. They might pick somebody else. So
well, unless you're trying to contribute or send something in for submission where you hear something back 6 months later.
Yeah. Yeah.
The amount of emails I get rejecting my work that I forgot even what I sent. They're the only people that don't feel obliged to send you an email straight away.
They're never. Then people live on a different fucking plane of existence.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but bombarded, and I definitely feel like zonked a lot of the time because I do feel like just bombarded with like stuff to do, like messages, WhatsApp, bloody TikTok videos, Instagram. All my eyes are turning square, man. Like,
you feel like afterwards you just feel exhausted because you've just spent the whole day staring at this fucking device that's just constantly giving you things to do, and you're like, you're never going to finish them. So I know with email is now, I'm trying to restrict how, I'll mark it as important and I'll leave it till tomorrow. I don't need to fucking send the school some email at 11 o'clock at night because there's nobody fucking there. So, wait till tomorrow and just do it that way. So I have gone back to the laboratory.
Your favourite place?
I've gone back to the laboratory, and I was rustling through the petri dishes and the beakers, and I got out my Bunsen burner and diffused some emails and came out with a poem.
Beautiful.
Very simply named Email. And I love how you never hear these poems before I read them. I'm recording them.
You're getting live action.
A live reaction,
Same as you chucking me that James Joyce poem about farts. What is going on here? This isn't him. You've written this.
This isn't James Joyce. This is a bit more kind of, refined, I suppose, than, farting and stuff like that. But this is the poem that I've come out with from the laboratory called Email. This has to stop. It's spiraled out of control and needs the chop. I used to only check them sitting on the pot, but now they're never ending and I think I'm beginning to lose the plot. That dreaded word. Like a chalkboard overrun with nails, a ping and red banner, another fucking email. Start off easy, 1 or 2 a day, easy peasy. Now my phone is hopping more than Pam Beasley's. Office reference. It's mostly for work, but sometimes it's personal, promotional or social. They just won't disperse, and all I seem to do is clean me inbox for space, but it's still becoming overrun and I just can't keep up with this pace. I've even set up an out of office just to give me a breather. But I think at this stage I'll need to hire a professional reader. Because once I'm back in the ring, the pings hit me like punches and I'm back dipping and diving invites to work brunches. Kind regards, yours sincerely. My head's fucked truly and dearly. All the best. Me life's a mess. I've deleted me email because I'm in dire need of a rest.
Same. Nice, man. Email.
Throw your phone in the fucking bin.
Yeah. Thanks for that, mate. That was the email by Leon. Drop us any lines. We've got the agony aunt section. We're always open to hear anything you are going through to turn into a poem, even if it's just getting too many emails. Give us a follow on the Instagram, the Poetry Said podcast. Give us a like. The reviews, will we stop asking? Don't bother. Give us a like, that'd be grand.
If you want to give us a review, you can, if you have a bit of spare time.
Nothing else on.
You've deleted your emails, you might as well send us a fucking review.
Yes. Leon, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ryan, baby. Play that sexy outro music.
Aye. Everyone's favourite bit.
Oh, it's my favourite bit.
Same. See you later.
Ciao, ciao.